And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we will be discussing how House Democrats are proposing new legislation to extend the stimulus payments for the foreseeable future, where they would give Americans $2,000 on a monthly basis as long as the economy is struggling to recover. Now, if you've been following my channel, I accurately predicted that this would happen, not because I'm a genius or I'm some type of economist, but because I understood that there was a lot of demand and supply destruction. And the only way that we could get the economy back to, I would say, pre-bubble levels is it was going to take at least another 15 to 16 trillion dollars, right? So we got about 8. We probably need another 7 to 8 trillion dollars to open the economy back up and get it productive again. $1,200 isn't going to be enough. The reason being is that most Americans, they don't have savings. The average American, I believe it's about 68% of Americans have less than $500 in their savings account. So many Americans are struggling and they need this money. And number two, politicians love to spend money, right? Politicians love to go out and buy votes. So I knew that this was going to happen. But then you have to also take a different approach. And this is why I always stress to you guys, be open-minded. Don't approach things just from the standpoint of, oh, this is going to cause inflation. Yes, with all of the other trillions of dollars that the government is spending, yes, this is going to lead to inflation. But if this was the only spending that the government was doing, a lot of you have to understand that many of the jobs that we've lost over the past 2 decades have been lost to technology. And technology is extremely deflationary because what happens to technology is that, number one, it allows you to become more productive. So it increases productivity, but you need less employees. So think about it. That robot, that machine doesn't get sick, doesn't get tired, can work 24/7, 365. The machine doesn't need health insurance. The machine doesn't need a retirement. So Andrew Yang was talking about the need for some type of a monthly UBI from that perspective. So, right, there's a lot of angles that you can look at this from. And this is why I say to you guys, be open-minded when you are approaching information. So, as you guys come into the stream, please make sure that you hit the like button. We're going to dive deep today. Make sure that you share this video. Make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell and put it on all. Also, make sure that you join my mailing list so that you can be notified every time that I am going live or uploading a video. And also, you can follow me on Instagram if you have any questions or you want to chat with me. And let's look what's going on in the chat. Is my audio good? Guys, if my audio is good, make sure that you type 1. And after that, we'll get ready to get started. Take a sip of my water. That's good to see. All right, so we have good audio. So let's look at what's happening in the markets overall. You can see the S&P was up 75 points today. The Dow was up 704 points. DAX up 324. FTSE up 158. So across the board, markets are up overall. Here's the S&P. We can see that we had this huge sell-off. And as you can see, the market, this is short covering and basically the market factoring in that the Fed and the government is going to do everything possible to get this economy back up and running. But understand that these things, they have long-term effects. They will affect this economy in the long term. And that's what I was saying to you guys. I don't believe that we're out of this by any stretch of the imagination. And if I was trading this particular market, the Dow, the S&P, I would be looking to fade this move. I would be looking to buy puts in this market because the only way that politicians respond is when the market starts selling off. And it's probably going to take the Dow or the S&P to drop another 20% or 15% to get them to enact that legislation. So I believe that we definitely have some room to go to the downside, but then there's the flip side. And that's why I keep trying to tell you guys, you have to be flexible in your thinking. The other aspect is, as long as the government keeps printing money and the Fed is talking about buying ETFs, buying corporate bonds, buying junk debt, they can push this market extremely high. So you have to be flexible in your thinking and know what you're doing, why you're investing, and what you're looking for. What you need to see in order to stay in a position and what you need to see in order to get out. Which is why I like to be hedged. I like to play both sides. So therefore, I know if I own gold, I'm fine. If I own crypto, I'm fine. Why? Because if markets sell off, capital flows out of risk assets, flows into gold. If the government keeps printing money, money's going to flow into gold. So either way you put it, my assets are going to perform well. I see some donations coming in. Democrats trying to pimp Americans like Trump. I agree. Can you go into detail about high schoolers going to the G League where they making $500,000 in college tuition assistance and the effect on the NCAA? Thank you for the donation. I'll probably cover that on Sunday because that's something that I would have to do a little bit more research on. And let's get to gold. We can see gold starting to sell off real quick. We tried to break 1,800. I would not be surprised if we don't see $2,000 gold within the next couple of months. And we have Bitcoin right here. I believe that Bitcoin is going to probably go a little bit lower, give us another entry at 5,500, 6,500. But we're calling up nicely and we're coming up to the halving. And with that being said, guys, let's get into the article. So it says, House Democrats have introduced legislation that would expand the federal government's relief cash payments to $2,000 a month until the economy recovers. On Wednesday, Americans who qualify started getting one-time checks from the Treasury Department of up to $1,200 per adult, depending on their incomes. But Democratic reps Tim Ryan from Ohio and Ro Khanna from California introduced a bill on Tuesday that would expand the payments to $2,000 on a monthly basis until employment returns to pre-crisis levels. Again, you don't have to be a PhD economist to figure this out. Most Americans, they don't have savings. Then they had to wait 8 weeks, anywhere from 5 weeks to 8 weeks to get their $1,200. A lot of Americans haven't even received the $1,200 because if your direct deposit wasn't set up with the IRS, then you're waiting for a paper check. So $1,200 is nothing anyway if you received it immediately. And if you're 2 weeks or 2 months behind on your rent, definitely not going to be enough anyway. It says they argued that the expansion is necessary to keep up with the growing number of Americans facing layoffs, furloughs, or pay cuts due to the economy shutting down. As millions of Americans file for unemployment week over week, we have to work quickly to patch the dam. And that means putting cash in the hands of hardworking families, Ryan said in a statement. A one-time $1,200 check isn't going to cut it, Khanna added. I agree. Under the proposal, every American aged 16 or older making less than $130,000 annually would receive at least $2,000 per month, while married couples earning less than $260,000 would receive at least $4,000. Families would be eligible for an additional $500 for each child, up to $1,500 per month. Now, again, if this was the only spending that the government was doing, something like a universal basic income, this would be a really good idea, right? Because a lot of people get things confused. Inflation isn't bad when the income gains and the wealth is evenly distributed throughout the economy. The problem with our debt-based economy and our inflation-based economy is most of the productivity gains goes to the investors, which is why you see a lot of asset price inflation. You don't really see a lot of wage growth, right? Wage growth hasn't kept up with productivity. Most of the benefits economically has been siphoned to the top, and that's just because of the way that the economy is structured. And then if you look at someone like Jordan Peterson, how he spoke about the fact that as technology becomes more powerful and more efficient and robots begin to become more of a thing, a lot of workers will become displaced. And it's very hard to teach a 35, 45, 55-year-old person a whole new set of skills into a new industry. Like that takes resources to be able to retrain people. And then you have to factor in that 10% of our country is functional illiterate. Like they just can't use computers. They can't use technology. So if you want to have a fair society, you're going to have to create something like this. But again, like I said, when you factor in all of the other government expenditures, right? When you factor in healthcare, when you factor in education, the government is in too many different industries. And you can't get to the point where you're just literally bailing everyone out and taking care of everyone. So if this was just the focus, I think that this would be a good idea because again, as I get into this presentation later on, you're going to begin to see what happens when Tesla perfects self-driving cars. What is that going to do to the taxi industry? Where are these people going to work? What happens when Tesla perfects their self-driving autonomous trucks? The trucking industry, the driving industry is one of the major employers in America that actually pays a good job, a good salary. When these self-driving trucks get on the road, that's going to destroy jobs. Where are those people going to go and work? See, when you start asking yourself these important questions, and this goes back to Andrew Yang when he was talking about universal basic income, there are certain jobs that are going to be taken away that aren't going to come back. And when you study Moore's law and you understand how technology begins to double every couple of years, if Tesla's already showing you cars that can somewhat drive itself, you can bet your bottom dollar within 5 years, those cars will be on the road and be driving themselves. Where are those people who are going to go and work? Right? These are things that you have to actually start thinking about. And then something struck me when I was reading this. It said, people, I highlighted it here in red. It said people would be able to receive the payments through mobile applications like Venmo, PayPal, or Zelle, in addition to direct deposit or checks. Now, remember, they were talking about the Fed coin. And see, this is why digital currencies are important. Do not let someone try to put it in your mind somehow that cryptocurrency is just some fad and it's just something that's a flash in a pan. They were proposing a digital dollar in the CARES legislation. They were going to create a Fed coin, right? That's going to be controlled by the government. They're already talking to you about digital payments. Now, let's start connecting dots. You have to be a thinker. You have to learn how to connect different dots and understand they all lead to a certain point. Here, it came out over the weekend that central banks are recommending banning stable coins. Why do you think they want to ban stable coins? Because central banks are planning on creating their own digital currency. The problem with a government-backed digital currency is that if there's no more physical cash and you do something or you say something that the government doesn't like, if they control your wallet, they control your keys, they turn you off, right? They shut you out of the economy. So now think about it. If you have an economy, you got to be able to hold multiple ideas at one time. If you have an economy where the government is basically taking care of you, giving you $2,000 a month, and they're controlling how you get the money and basically where you can spend that money at, that's going to be problematic as far as disagreeing politically. That means you don't have any more freedom or sovereignty. Now, let's start really expanding on a lot of the ideas that I express on this channel about China being a little brother. Understanding, well, China's coming as well, and they want to test their own digital currency that could end up challenging the dollar globally, right? So there's a lot of moving pieces to the puzzle. So as I presented to you before, you have to ask yourself, what type of cashless society do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a cashless society that's controlled by China or controlled by your government? Or do you want to be in a cashless society where your transactions are pseudonymous and you don't have to reveal who you are and you control your private keys, right? Or do you want to live in an economy in a world where they control everything that you do top down? So these are things that you have to start thinking about. And thank you guys for the donations. Now, the reason why I said that when you factor in all of the government spending, that $2,000 is not a good idea, right? Because where is this money going to come from? Now, you have people who believe in the modern monetary theory. They believe that since we are the reserve currency and our debt's denominated in our currency, that we can print as much money as we want to, that there would be no consequences. But we know inflation is something real. And when you have $24 trillion in national debt and you're spending $4 trillion over here to bail out corporations, $2 trillion over here to bail out the people. I know what some of you are saying that, well, the corporations got bailed out. I'm just letting you understand that this will cause inflation because you're spending everywhere. See, if it was just spending on the people, that would be one thing. Literally, they're spending everywhere, right? You have to think about the unfunded liabilities that's coming up as well. You have to think about the boomers. You have to really start thinking about all of these different things that the government is spending money on the military, etc. So from a micro level, yes, that $2,000 makes sense. Now, from an investment perspective, as I said to you guys before, do you think the government is going to allow the economy to fail? No. So what do you think that they're going to do? They're going to keep printing money. So what do you think that you should be investing in if you know that they're going to keep printing money? There we go. Now let's get to the whole idea about technology, because I think that this is really important, because this is a real major challenge that is going to plague us for the next 50 to 100 years. This is going to shape the future. There's something known as Moore's Law. Moore's Law refers to Moore's perception that the number of transistors on a microchip doubles every 2 years. Though the cost of computers is halved, Moore's Law states that we can expect the speed and capability of our computers to increase every couple of years, and we will pay less for them. And this is what I was saying to you guys before about technology is extremely deflationary, because technology takes your jobs in most cases. I want you to think about a kiosk. When you go to a self-checkout lane, that self-checkout lane, all you really need is someone to keep them clean, and you need a technician to fix them when they break down. Those are jobs that are being taken away. That machine is efficient. It can count better and faster than a human could. It doesn't get sick, and it costs a hell of a lot less to actually maintain those machines. I want you to think about bank tellers. I want you to start thinking about ATMs. I want you to start thinking about when you go into a fast food restaurant, and they literally have robots now that are helping make these things. And I want to show you something real quick, right? I want to show you these robots because, a lot of you think that this stuff is funny, but you need to see this stuff, right? This is the company named Boston Dynamics, if I'm not mistaken. And these are robots now that's able to do this type of stuff. Now, these are going to be robots that are going to be able to pick up center blocks. These are robots that are going to be able to work on assembly lines and be able to put together your cars. Like, look at this robot can run, it can flip, and it can jump. Give me 1 second. Remember, I just showed you Moore's Law. This is on the left is 2009. This right here is 2019. I want you to see the difference in the robots in 10 years. And then I want you to think, what are these robots going to be able to do in the next 5 years, in the next 3 years? Like, these are things that you have to really start thinking about. Seriously. Right? This robot is climbing steps and he's jumping from side to side. That's going to be extremely deflationary. These robots are going to take away a lot of jobs. And this is coming in the foreseeable future. So this is why I can see a $2,000 or a $1,200 on a monthly basis income coming, like Andrew Yang stated, because you can't just have all of these people in the streets. And if there's really nothing for them to do, then you have to start thinking about that, you know. And these are them testing robots in different conditions, on hills, on slopes. And I really encourage you to go and look at this stuff, because this stuff is going to happen, you know, and I'm not making this to scare you. I'm not making this video. I'm doing this to actually show you. Look at this. It can jump over barriers, dividers. It can jump up on top of ramps. This is here now. Right now, today. This is not something that I'm talking about in a science fiction, novel. This right here as well. This is how most factories look. Right? So now you have to think about, this is how most factories look right now. Today, right now, if you look at Elon Musk's factory, it's mainly just a bunch of robots putting a lot of the stuff together, and then a human at the end just comes in and inspects it. Right? So when you start really seeing this stuff, this is going to be important. Do you feel like accountants' jobs are safe? I don't think any job is safe coming up, guys. And I'm not here to be scary. I'm not here to scare you guys. And I'm not here. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. I'm here to get you guys prepared and to start thinking. I don't want to scare you guys, right? I don't want to put fear in you. I want you to be able to look at things from multiple angles so you can understand why we need a universal basic income. Right? I want you to really think about that. And I want you to think and envision what our future may look like in the next 3 to 5 years. And then I want you to think about, why do you think I'm constantly telling you guys to get into tech? Why do you think I constantly keep telling you guys to get into learning how to program and build robots? Because someone's going to need to be able to build these and program these to do things and manage them and watch over these robots. So I want to make sure that I'm giving you something that can prepare you for the future. So I really just want you to start thinking about that. We're going to come back to this in a second. So let's get to this article. It says, robots could take over 20 million jobs by 2030. Think about that. Robots could take over 20 million jobs by 2030. Now remember, Moore's law, every 2 years, the computing power is doubling. So we could see this happen by 2025. That's 10 years. Right? It says robots could take over 20 million manufacturing jobs around the world by 2030, economists claimed Wednesday. According to a new study from Oxford Economics, within 11 years, there could be 14 million robots put to work in China alone. Now, who pops up again? China. I want that to stick in your mind. China popped up again. Why? Because the little brother doesn't want to be number 2 forever. Why do you think companies keep so much of your personal data? Because they want to be able to program machines to be able to think like humans. It's something called the predictive algorithm. How do you think Google may know what you may want to buy next? When you go on Amazon, they recommend you things. The algorithm is reading you and predicting what you want. What do you think they're storing that data for? Do you think that they're keeping that data because they just want to help you buy nice things? Or they're keeping that data because they want to be able to feed it to these robots so that robots can begin to think or predict like a human would be able to predict? Now, again, most of these things are in your face. This is not far-fetched stuff this is not a conspiracy theory. I mean, there's a show called Westworld. They got TV shows showing you this stuff in your face where they have androids in a park and they're recording the humans interact with the androids because they're trying to figure out a way to blend the two. I mean, it's called transhumanism. But again, we'll get to that in a second. Economists analyzed long-term trends around the uptake of automation in the workplace, noting that the number of robots in use worldwide increased threefold over the past 2 decades to 2.25 million. What have I been telling you guys? Listen, I'm going to read it again right here. This green sentence that I highlighted. Noting that the number of robots in use worldwide increased threefold over the past 2 decades to 2.25 million. While researchers predicted the rise of robots will bring about benefits in terms of productivity and economic growth, they also acknowledged the drawbacks that were expected to rise simultaneously. As a result of robotization, tens of millions of jobs will be lost, especially in poorer local economies that rely on lower skilled workers. This will therefore translate to an increase in income inequality, the study's authors said. Right? And this is why I said to you guys before, I want you to think about this. Most of the economic gains, it goes to investors, right? And then the productivity benefits, it goes to the corporation. But you, the employer, you don't get any of these benefits. I mean, you get to use the technology, but you don't get any of the benefits, which is why you are going to need something like this from your government, many of you, because many of you don't have savings. You don't have enough saved for retirement. And that's just the reality. But the problem is, when you look at the West, we have an aging population. Every day, 10,000 Americans reach retirement age, boomers. And we're running massive amounts of national debt. So we're being bled dry. We're being bled dry from so many different angles that, 24 trillion dollars in national debt, that's a lot of money. There's a lot of people depending on the government, right? So there's a lot of different, problems that are going to arise, which is why we're going to start to see a lot of volatility in our economy, which means some parts of the economy is going to feel like it's a recession. Other parts are going to feel like it's in a depression. And then other parts, you're going to see opportunity. Like when Uber first launched, it was a great idea for people to work from home. But people didn't understand that they were using the Uber drivers to grow the company. And then they began to squeeze the riders. And then now on the back end, Uber's working on their own self-driving trucks, and Tesla as well, called Uber Freight. Now it says, what does Tesla's automated truck mean for truckers? See, again, guys, I'm not sitting up here giving you anything that I just pulled out of, thin air, right? These trucks are already being produced by Tesla. They're already making these trucks. It says Elon Musk rolled out Tesla's biggest gizmo yet. And this was in, I think this article, let me tell you when this article came out. I know it's an old article. This is in 2017. It says, Elon Musk rolled out Tesla's biggest gizmo yet, a fully electric semi-truck. The semi can go a whopping 500 miles between charges, hauling 80,000 pounds along the way, and it can sort of kind of drive itself on highways anyway. The truck comes with enhanced autopilot, the second generation of Tesla's semi-autonomous technology, equipped with automatic braking, lane keeping, and lane departure warnings. Now, apply Moore's law to this. If right now that's all the trucks could do, what are they going to be able to do in the next 5 years? How much more powerful will these self-driving cars and trucks become? What will that do to the taxi industry? What will that do to the trucking industry? Where will these people be able to go and work? these are things that you have to really start thinking about. How are people going to be able to earn a living? Every truck we sell has autopilot as standard, Musk said of the Semi, which goes into production in 2019. That may be true. Hold on, let's skip that. I want to read that. Right here. Driving tomorrow. But what does the future look like for truck drivers? That kind of depends on how you define trucking. Because autonomous big rigs aren't going to be 100% autonomous, at least not in the near or medium future. For example, Peloton Technology, a 6-year-old startup, envisions platooning trucks that can travel in packs and talk to each other via radio waves. Drivers in these trucks need only to sit at the wheel if their vehicle leads the platoon. Others can fill out paperwork, nap, or sit at a laptop and manage the fleet's logistics network, though they'll probably need more training for that. So what they're basically saying is that, think about it. You could have a setup where you'll have one truck, that's the self-driving truck, and you'll have one guy sitting in front, and then you can have 5 or 6 trucks behind them that's basically communicating with the truck in the front, sort of like a train, and there are no drivers in those other 6 cars. So this is actually, you have to really start really applying this and asking yourself, what is this going to do to the economy? And a lot of people, they don't want to face that question. It's easy to blame companies for shipping your jobs overseas, which is true in some aspects, but most of your job losses are coming to robots. And that's just the reality. And these robots are here. This is not something that's 10 years away. These robots are here right now. And this is why I was saying to you guys too before about digital currencies. They're here now. All of these things are in your face. And if you're not staying up to speed with what's going on, you're going to miss out as to what's really going on and what's happening, because it's happening so fast. And many of you, it's hard for you to keep up. Here we go right now. This article was published in 2017 as well. It says self-driving cars could cost America's professional drivers up to 25,000 jobs a month. Think about that. 25,000 jobs a month. And this is just this is just an estimate, right? So we know it can be 10 times worse. 10 times worse. The full impact of self-driving cars on society is several decades away, which, I mean, this article right here is incorrect, because look what Uber did to medallion taxi drivers here in New York. I want you to think about this, right? It's rumored, I don't know this for a fact, but it's rumored that to get a taxi medallion, to get like one of those, yellow cabs here to own a medallion, that it used to cost over $1 million to get a taxi medallion here in New York City. When Uber was created, where all you had to do is literally download an app and submit some paperwork and you could be a taxi driver, it killed the yellow taxi industry here in New York City. Literally the medallion owners needed to get a bailout from the government because they overpaid for those medallions. Like, it literally decimated the taxi industry. But then what happened was that then Uber, the company, began to start squeezing the drivers. So this is not something that's decades away. It's happening today. These ride-sharing apps and then soon self-driving cars is putting people out of business as we speak. I told you guys what the cons are. The cons is inflation. Like, that's going to be the major con is going to be inflation. Sorry about that, showstopper. I don't know if you probably came later. But that's what the con's going to be. The con is you can't print money out of thin air. That's one of the biggest problems. Like, this is the problem. It's called inflation. Every year, your dollar buys less and less and less and less. That's the reason why the biggest con to it. You can't run a $24 trillion deficit. You can't bail out companies. You can't bail out airlines. You can't bail out banks. You can't promise everyone's retirement. everyone's health insurance and employ millions of people. You can't do that, right? So you can't just look at UBI, and because UBI is not the only place where the government is spending money, right? Like the government is spending money everywhere. So the con to that is, as I said earlier, if all they was doing is using that money to give you $2,000 a month, then that would make sense, right? But literally, you have to think about education. The government is the largest subsidizer of education. Healthcare. The government is one of the largest subsidizer of healthcare, right? You can't be everywhere and bailing out everything and spending everything, right? Because money operates off supply and demand. Well, if you're just literally throwing it everywhere, then your purchasing power goes down. So what good is it if you get paid $2,000, but a loaf of bread is $200? Right? Think about this. Like, let me show you something. I bring this up a lot, and that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that question. I want to show you something. I always bring this up because this is important. This is your purchasing power of your dollar, right? Governments cannot just print money out of thin air without there being consequences, right? If you increase the money supply, the purchasing power of your dollar goes down. So right here, you can see the purchasing power of your dollar. So you still get paid the same dollar, but your dollar today is worth 90% less than it was in 1913, right? So you can talk about taxes, you can talk about all that. We're talking about the value of your money. I really think that you need to, pay attention to that stuff, and you need to think about that. Like when they're printing this money, it's going to cause inflation. And this is why the cost of housing continues to keep going up. The cost of health insurance keeps going up. The cost of education keeps going up. The cost of living keeps going up because we have an inflation-based economy, have a debt-based economy. And every single year, according to the government's data, that's if you believe the government's data, which I don't. But every year, we're running at least 3% inflation. We can see from 1971, when we delinked from the gold standard, 4%, 3%, 6%, 11%, 5%, 6%, 7%. That's because the value of our money we're losing value. The dollar's losing value every single month. And that's the problem. Give me 1 second, guys. So I hope that answers your question why that's going to be bad. Again, if it was just UBI, I think UBI is necessary. I totally agree with you guys that UBI, based upon what's happening in the economy with technology, you're going to have to protect Americans because, as I said before, many of you are going to lose your jobs. See, Sierra Sunshine, and I'm going to answer that question for you in a second because that's really, really a good question. That's the whole purpose of inflation, is that it helps you pay off debt faster, right? So when you look at it this way, right? The whole purpose is I'm going to borrow $100,000 with cheap interest rates. Let's say interest rates are, 8%, but inflation's increasing at 3% or 5% on a yearly basis. So with the increase of inflation, it helps me be able to pay off debt faster in the future. So let me finish this last article and I'll get to some of you guys' questions in a second, right? It says that the full impact of self-driving cars on society is several decades away. But when it hits, the job losses will be substantial for American truck drivers, according to a new report from Goldman Sachs. When autonomous vehicle saturation peaks, U.S. drivers could see job losses at a rate of 25,000 a month or 300,000 a year, according to the report from Goldman Sachs Economics Research. Truck drivers, more so than bus or taxi drivers, will see a bulk of that job loss, according to the report. That makes sense given today's employment. In 2014, there were 4 million driver jobs in the U.S., 3.1 million of which were truck drivers. That represents 2% of total employment. Again, I'm not making this stuff up. Like, This stuff is here. It's in your face. So if you're looking, someone said, well, what should I go to school for? That's something that you have to really start asking yourself as far as that. Will that job even be here in the future? And this is why I constantly try to steer you guys towards the direction of getting a job that's in technology, that's in STEM, because those are going to be the people who is going to drive the future. That's going to be the people who is going to build the future. That's where the jobs are going to be, in my personal opinion. So I would encourage you to really start looking at science, technology, engineering, and math. Those are jobs that pay well. Yes, they're demanding. And I'm speaking more to younger people right now. I'm not talking to those of you who are older, because that becomes the next problem. I know some of you, your knee-jerk reaction is going to be, well, can't we just, go and retrain some of these people? The problem is it's hard to learn this stuff at 35, 45. And once you have a family, it's not easy just to say, hey, I'm going to drop everything that I'm doing and go pick up a new skill. It's not that easy and it's not that simple. Now, one more quick thing. I shared this the other day. Well, actually today. A lot of people are taking their stimulus checks and they're going out and they're buying Bitcoin. It says Coinbase sees spike in $1,200 crypto buys as the IRS deposits stimulus checks. The chart shows the number of Coinbase purchases or fund deposits that perfectly match $1,200, the amount the IRS is depositing in bank accounts of Americans this week as part of the $2 trillion Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, otherwise known as CARES Act. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I knew that this was going to happen. I'm not going to encourage this. If you need your $1,200, use your $1,200 on your family. I believe that things are going to get worse before they get better. If you got the $2,400, use that on your family. Do not be reckless right now. Now is not the time to be reckless. Now is the time to be smart with what you're doing. And this is Brian Armstrong. This is the CEO of Coinbase. And he shared this article on his Twitter. This chart on his Twitter, which is basically referencing the article. So it's definitely true. People are taking their stimulus checks and they're buying Bitcoin. They're buying Litecoin, whatever the case may be, Ethereum. Be smart. Bitcoin is a speculative asset right now. Ethereum is a speculative asset right now. Speculative means that it's for people that have disposable income. If you have disposable income, that's what investing is for. You should not be gambling right now, right? If you don't have money, you need to put that money into some groceries and hold on to some cash. Don't be a fool right now. So I really think that you need to do that. I'll go look at it in a second, showstopper, right? And then this is the last thing I want to wrap up with, and then I'm going to take some questions, right, guys? Finish up my presentation. So I've been getting a lot of trolls on my videos lately. And they've been coming on my video and they've been saying, well, if you're a successful businessman, why are you getting donations, right? Successful businessmen, they don't get donations. Well, here's a successful businessman. This is a guy by the name of Peter Schiff, right? Peter Schiff is worth $70 million, according to Google. Peter Schiff is an author of multiple books. He's getting donations on his YouTube channel. $5 here. Now, this guy's worth way more money than I ever could be, right? Right? Than I ever could be. And he's getting donations. This is a guy who's an author. As you can see, he's written multiple books. The Real Crash, How an Economy Grows, Crash Proof, The Little Book of Bull Moves in the Bear Market. I encourage you to go read these books. These are actually some really good books. I read this book years ago. I think this is one of my first books I got introduced to as far as Austrian economics is concerned. I would encourage you to go and read it. And it says right here, Peter Schiff's net worth. Peter Schiff is an American businessman, broker, author, and commentator who has a net worth of $70 million. So, you need to really go and ask yourself, what would motivate you to want to come onto my page and say stuff like that? You really got to ask yourself, like, what's wrong with you? And I'm beginning to see a lot of you are just, jealous people. And it's really sad, but that's neither here nor there. So now, let's look at what Showstopper was saying. I'll take some questions now. And there's 451 of you watching this, guys. Hit the like button. It helps the content rank. Please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and share the video. So let's see. Showstopper said, let's see what he said up here. Look through here. Thank you for the donation as well. Just Living. Robots are the future. I'm a flatbed trucker. Robots ain't ready for that. Pay attention, drivers. Let be technicians and drivers. I should have said, what are the cons of socialism? Well, the cons of socialism is that it's always failed. See, I said this before, right? Whenever you talk to like a socialist or a communist, right? They always say, oh man, we just didn't do it right. It's like when a government fails, right? When the government makes a mistake, they never say, hey, we messed up because our ideology is wrong. They always say, hey, we just need more money. Like if we had more funding, it would work. And then every year you watch the government budget get bigger and bigger and bigger. You watch government get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they keep failing, right? We had Hurricane Katrina. They failed. You know what they said? Well, we just need more resources. Okay, well, then they got more resources, right? Now we have this happening right now. We have the whole pandemic thing. They failed to react, right? Didn't have proper testing. The CDC, the FEMA, the FDA, they weren't coordinated, right? They failed again. Like, so what? You need $1 trillion. You need 10 trillion. You need 20 trillion, right? They just constantly, they need more and more and more and more. It's the same thing with socialism, right? Like they just want to tax everything and regulate everything, and it keeps failing. It's literally failing all over the place. And then they'll point to like a little Nordic country and they'll say, oh, well, you got to look at the Netherlands. You got to look over here. Look at these countries. You cannot compare a tiny little country to, America, right? The whole purpose of capitalism, and we don't live in capitalism. Capitalism has produced the most wealth and freedom compared to any other economic system in the world. That's a fact. It's allowed us to become the greatest superpower in the world. That's a fact. The problem is that we have too much meddling in the economy. Like, for example, a cruise line company or an airline company, they should be allowed to fail and file bankruptcy. Understand that if the airline companies go bankrupt, everyone doesn't get fired. The business doesn't just disappear. When you go and you file bankruptcy, it allows you to restructure. It allows you to go like, Boeing and American Airlines makes it like if they don't get bailed out today, that they're going to just fire everybody tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. When you go into bankruptcy protection, what it allows you to do, it allows you to restructure your debt. It allows you to sell off your profitable assets to a better company. It allows you to keep your employees while you're going through the restructuring of your debt. The problem is that we have big corporations in bed with government. That's the problem, where they can deregulate industries. They can get tax incentives. They can get bailouts from their friends. And then even when they mess up, so they get to privatize the gains and socialize the losses. So we're living through socialism right now and we're watching it fail. We're living through cronyism right now and we're watching it fail. So when I hear people say this, you have to really start thinking about that. Like, you have to ask yourself, what type of future do you live in? World you want to live in? Do you want to live in a world where you are in control of your destiny, where you can make as much money as you want and you can do with that money as you see fit? Or do you want to live in a world where government is going to tell you, for example, $2,000 a month? Who's to say $2,000 a month is enough? What if you need $4,000 a month? Some people can live off $500 a month. The government's job isn't to pick winners and losers. The government's job shouldn't be to tell who gets bailed out and who doesn't. The market should decide that, right? Think about it. If I saved and I did everything right now, I don't get a bailout. If I did everything right, saved money, budgeted, paid my employees fair wages, I don't get a bailout. But if I'm American Airlines and I didn't pay fair wages, I didn't give my employees contracts, I created faulty products, right? I paid out millions of dollars in bonuses, I get a bailout from the taxpayer. That's not fair. That's cronyism. And that's what we live in right now. We don't live in a free market economy, right? Socialism basically means everybody gets to share your misery and be poor. And that's not what I want. I want to be able to reap the benefits of my own work. Hope that answers your question. The game is 100% rigged. Thank you for the donation, Self-Made SM. What about the economic impact on the education system in this? Are we moving towards more distant, remote, and self-learning? Or is it going to be like the CCP concentration camps? Are we going to force socialism? Guys, we're already living in socialism. I want to stress that to you. Guys, we're already living in socialism. That's it. Like, when you have 12 Fed chairmen who sit in a room, it's called the central bank. That means you have 12 men and women sitting in a room, and they're going to dictate what the price of money is going to be. That's socialism. That's central planning. That's not a market-based economy by any stretch of the imagination. Now, let's get to the flip side. If technology is getting better and we have things like Zoom and FaceTime, and we have websites like Khan Academy, shouldn't the cost of education be coming down? Shouldn't school be cheaper, right? It shouldn't be $50,000, $40,000 a year. Why is it so expensive to go to college? Well, look who subsidizes it. The government, right? The government heavily subsidizes these industries. The government's not efficient with money because it's not their money, right? So you have these big institutions working with government, and they're basically creating these apparatuses where they can siphon off millions of dollars of taxpayer money for overinflated college tuitions and college degrees. And we can see that these degrees are not worth $40,000 a year, right? Because the marketplace is saying it's not worth it. Now, will we go with education? To be quite honest with you, I believe we're going to go to a point where a lot of schools aren't going to be able to get funding as far as public education. As a parent, I think that you're going to have to probably homeschool your kids if you want them to get a quality education. I don't see us going into like a CCP concentration camp. I just see us with a point where we have like this dystopian, education system where, depending on what neighborhood you live in, you're not going to have a lot of resources. You're not going to have textbooks. Teachers aren't going to be equipped, like what we're seeing right now happen, and kids just aren't going to learn. Like most schools are going to just be like babysitting places. I don't see like concentration camps and stuff like that. I just see extreme levels of poverty, kids basically just hanging around school, hanging out in classrooms like kids do today, like we're seeing now. And I think that that's the future, where people just aren't going to get educated. And then there are going to be those of us that have technology that can self-educate. Because if you want education now, like I told you guys, you can go to MIT OpenCourseWare and learn how to code for free, right? So I think that we're in the best of times and the worst of times, depending on what you're looking for, right? If you're looking for knowledge, you'll find knowledge. If you're looking for an education, you'll find an education. If you're, not looking for those things, then you won't find it. Like, prime example, look at this. This is MIT OpenCourseWare. Look at these things that they're teaching here, right? Like, you can literally learn about so many different things. Quantum physics, literally quantum physics, you can learn about for free. You can learn how to program. You can learn about physical chemistry. differential equations, right? This is how learning should be right now. People should be able to go and learn these things for free. These are actual real MIT courses. Or education should be affordable, but I don't believe that's going to happen. And I believe that, I hate to say this, but I think hard times are ahead for a lot of Americans because many of us, we just don't care. I hope that answers your question. Fundora, good information. That's why I'm self-teaching myself to be a blockchain developer. I plan to transition out of my current job within 3 to 4 years. Exactly, Fundora. And this is why I keep trying to tell you guys about this stuff, not because I want to scare you, but because I just want to keep it real with you. These robots are coming. I mean, they're already here, but they're coming for your job. And China is going to start implementing these robots to compete with the West. And I told you guys, it's the reason why these corporations are taking your data. It's a reason why, they want to know your location because they want to know how many steps you take a day. They want to know how often you pick up your phone. When you wear your Fitbit and your iWatch, they're monitoring, how fast can you run, your heart rate. All of this is being stored in a central location. And they're taking this data and they're putting it into these robots. And as I said before, if you think that this isn't going to happen, trust me when I tell you, it's here and it's coming. Mr. G said, looking to purchase Ethereum, would you recommend purchasing it through Coinbase, using the Ledger Nano X to store it? Thanks in advance. Okay, so I was going to save this for my Bitcoin course that I was going to put together, but I'll give you some really, really good free advice right now, some free game. Okay. Anytime you go on an exchange and you buy cryptocurrency like Coinbase, it's known as KYC, right? AML. It stands for Know Your Customer and Anti-Money Laundering, which means that you have to reveal your identity and say who you are. Well, there's a really smart guy by the name of Eli. He doesn't like to pay taxes and he doesn't like to let people know who he is. Coinbase is for new people who you just want to have a simple, stupid, easy way to buy crypto and they store it for you. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin, not your Ethereum. This right here is a site called Changelly. This is known as a DEX. This is a decentralized exchange. Now there's more advanced, follow my drift, DEXs where you don't have to disclose who you are, how much crypto you've purchased, and what you're doing with it. So, for example, a lot of you want to buy Monero, right? You can buy all of the different cryptocurrencies here, depending on where you're located at. Some regions, some parts of the world, you may have to identify who you are. Well, I'm going to show you another DEX that you don't have to do that as well. You have to search around, go and do your due diligence, but you can go in here and you can buy Monero. Where's XMR at? Where's it at? Right here. So for example, right? You can come here and you can buy these things and you won't have to do any KYC or any AML. That means that the government doesn't need to know that you own any crypto and how much you own. Now this stuff is kind of complicated. There are some tutorials on YouTube. I'll drop that link for you. If you just want it to be simple and stupid, easy, not complicated, use Coinbase and then transfer it to your ledger. But if you've been in the game a while like me, and you got a lot of crypto and you're worried about the government eventually coming to try to take it or you paying taxes on it, you want to start looking at ways that you can buy crypto without having to disclose you have it. Another DEX is, hold on. Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up. What's it called? Give me a second. I'll find it for you in a second and I'll put it in there. I have to get the exact links. I hope that answers your question, Mr. G. If not, message me again. And thank you for the donation. But this right here is Changelly. This is a DEX. Google DEXs, and then you'll find out how you can go about purchasing crypto from a DEX without identifying who you are. You may need a VPN. Go look into Tor, and this is for educational purposes only. For those of you who are government informants watching this, I'm only doing this for educational purposes only. Then you have Showstopper. Yes, thank you. Question in the chat. No problem. Thank you for the donation. Um, Uber used data to map traffic patterns, et cetera, for AI. Of course, 100%. 100%. Agavis are. They're doing that 1000%. Alexander Wilson says, how will offenders find work in this age? When you say offenders, what exactly do you mean, Alexander Wilson? Yeah, I don't work with Coinbase, George Diaz. Just try to give you some you know, good information. Listen, guys, when I put together the crypto course, I'm going to give you guys some really powerful information. Like I said, I'm an OG in the crypto space. I got burned. I lost a lot of money. I went through all of the different things. I got burned in Mount Gox. Butterfly Labs burnt me with the whole ASIC miner things. But then I made the money back. Then I lost it again and I made it back. I went through a lot of different phases. So when I come to you, I give you guys things that I want you to research yourself. But I'm telling you that these are things that work. And Coinbase is meant for people who, let's say you're managing money, or you don't want to deal with the possibility of, losing your private keys. So Coinbase is for people who isn't willing to really put that extra work in to learn this technology. If you're someone like me and you got a sizable amount of money, right? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in crypto. You're not leaving that sitting on an exchange. If you've had your crypto stolen from you on a exchange before, like Mt. Gox, you're not leaving your crypto sitting on an exchange. Not your keys, not your crypto. So I always encourage you guys, get a hardware wallet, learn the technology, learn about a DEX, a decentralized exchange, and what they provide for you guys, and why you don't have to KYC and you don't have to AML. Now the problem with that is if you mess up, you lose your crypto, right? So this is for people who this is decentralization, right? This isn't about big government. There's no support group that you can hit up and get your password or your private key back, right? So you need to make sure that you know what you're doing. You're watching some tutorials, play around with a small amount of money. Do like maybe $100 or $50. Play with something small and learn how to use a DEX. With all of the turmoil in NYC, can you see yourself moving from NYC? If so, where to? Thanks in advance. Yeah, I told you guys I want to move to Texas or Atlanta. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I believe that things are going to get progressively worse before they get better. I believe that we're just facing too many challenges, and or even Virginia for that matter. And I want to start, networking with people where we can start putting together contingency plans. We can get some land. Like I'm serious. I'm a serious prepper, right? I'm prepped as an individual, but I want to start networking with other people because I believe that this is just the first wave that they're going to throw at us. And I believe that you need to have guns. I think you need to have land. I think you need to have a little small militia of people to work with. And it's very, very important going forward that you have food, that you have resources, and you have guns, because this is your life that's depending on it. And there will be some type of confrontation between the people and the government going forward, and that's just my reality. I've been wanting to, but I also love New York, and I shared a picture. This is over here where I stay at. I shared this before. Hold on, I'll pull it up for you guys in a second. See something? Give me 1 second. I'll show you guys. Alexander Wilson, don't forget to ask that question again. 1 second, community. I put this up the other day. Oh wow, it's deleted. Here we go. Thought I deleted it. I shared this the other day, Charles Swain, and thanks for the donation. This is a picture of New York City over here by Brooklyn Bridge, Dumbo. I love to go take this walk all the time and just look at the view. New York City has some really, really beautiful places, and I have a love-hate relationship with the city. I have a lot of, memories and things I've been through, and struggle, and success. And also, it's the financial capital of the world. So it helps me with business. It helps me with networking and meeting people. But I just think that it's time to go. I don't know exactly when, but I know it's coming up soon for me to get out of here. But it's gonna hurt to leave New York. It will hurt me. It will hurt me a tremendous amount. But I just think it's time to go. Um, Felons, they call them offenders. You talking about like people like yeah, they're done, guys. A lot of jobs are going to be done just in general, right? Like that's just the reality. A lot of these jobs, they're just not coming back. And with the way technology is structured, if you're an offender, I just don't see how you're going to be able to survive in this new climate. I just don't see it. So I agree with you 100%. I'm looking forward to the course. Do you have a timetable when you'll be creating one? I told you I'm talking to a guy from Blockstream because I want a person that knows how to program and develop on a blockchain. And I want a person that actually has like real experience and that's developed big projects. The problem is that he's currently working on, I think it's like the Liquid network or something. He was talking about the Lightning project. And I really want to focus on Ethereum, and he knows how to program in Solidity. So I want to have an aspect of the course that is teaching people how to develop. Like programming is easy, right? It's just learning a language. Once you learn the functions and the syntax, that's easy. You can pick that up within a matter of 60 days, right? But then you have to learn how to start like solving problems because that's what developers do, right? They solve problems, problem solving. And I want a person like that really knows how to solve problems, that has developed things before. So, getting him on a project is not hard. It's just getting him to be here consistently. I don't want to get to a point where like, we're 15, 20 days into it. And then because he's, tied down with so much work with other projects, he can't really be able to do that. So, realistically speaking, I would have a better answer for you probably by like the end of this month, first week of next month, as far as what we're going to be doing. But like the mechanics of Bitcoin and Ethereum and blockchain, that stuff I can teach you because a lot of that stuff you can find for free. I just feel like I can be able to present it to you in a much better, simpler fashion. And I know a lot of more, tips and tricks like dexes and stuff like that. So I can have the course up in about 2 weeks. But as far as like the real technical nitty gritty stuff, like developing, getting a job, being a blockchain developer, I want to have someone like that. So I'll have a better answer for you by the end of this month. Zipmo literally just found my two brand new Ledger Nano S hard wallets I brought in 2017 that I never used. Turned on the podcast and you were talking about crypto hard wallets. I know, right, Zipmo? So again, like I said, guys, these dexes are powerful. When you understand what a dex is and you understand how to use these things, you start learning about air gapped computers. You start learning about, what else did I want to say? VPNs and Tor and stuff like that, how you can really get around different things, you'll become real powerful real quickly. Thank you, Roberto Morales. Should we learn coding before taking? No, 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 no. I told you there's going to be a coding aspect in there. Be easy. Uh, and again, like I said, the course is going to be affordable. It's not going to be anything crazy. So it's just I'm anti courses. But I realize that you have to charge people to make them value things, right? Like if you don't charge them, they won't value it. So like I would love to give it away just for free, but I just know that people aren't going to, value it if it's free. And people are going to steal it. So let's see what else is going on in here. My country let 300 prisoners out of jail, and some of them started robbing people as soon as they hit the streets. Yeah, well, God, what do you think they're going to do? Seriously, what can you do if you don't if you don't have any if you don't have any resources? All of the stores are shut down. What do you do? Right? There's nothing you can do. Um, Yeah, I tell you guys, if you want learn Python, learn JavaScript, and then learn Node.js. Those are easy languages to learn. It's basically you're basically writing in English. It's typing in English. It's not complicated at all. No, see, that's where you're mistaken at Makeda's Wrath. At the beginning, they may need, operators, but I promise you, very, very quickly, Moore's law, they won't need guys. I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but like when you start really studying stuff and you start looking into, you know, transhumanism and depopulation and stuff like that, you begin to start to see that this is something that's much bigger than you and I. And if they can figure out a way to, you know, really get rid of a lot of people that are not needed, that's the path that things are headed down. And I hate to be that way, but I'm just being real with you. Um, these if right now these trucks and cars can, let's say, 60% drive themselves, well, with Moore's law, as the technology becomes more efficient, as the tech becomes better, you can just see where this is going in 5 to 10 years. They won't need drivers. Like, that's just the reality. Now the government may put a law out there and mandate it, but if there's one driver for every 6 trucks, well, that kills a lot of jobs. So you have to think about that. Like, it's still going to kill a lot of jobs. I mean, we see technology destroying jobs as we speak. I guess this MBA I'm working on is no good. Laugh out loud. Wish I would went into business rather than study business. Thanks, bro. Hopefully we can converse on a deep thinker to thinker level. See, that's the thing. You can't think like that, Jerome E. And I'm not, you can't think that way. There will be opportunity mixed with difficulty. And you just have to figure out where the opportunities are going to be. That's the thing. A lot of people are not willing to take the time out. So, I don't look at it like a college degree is a complete waste if you've already, committed to it, right? Use that as a way to network with people. I think college is one of the biggest pros of college is that you're on a campus that you can network and meet people and build lifelong relationships. And the people that you meet in school, they're going to go on to be a CEO, an executive. They're going to go on and work in the government. So you need to make sure that you're networking with these people, developing and fostering relationships that can turn into something. So don't look at it like it's a waste. Now, yes, you probably overpaid. College degrees are grossly, overpriced. But like, for example, like my first business partner, no, my second business partner and first one, I met in college, right? Like, so you have to think about that. Like, I've met lifelong friends in college. So I wouldn't look at it as a complete waste. Look at it now like, start trying to pivot, start trying to, network and get in there and get some jobs and stuff like that. But we definitely can have a deeper conversation. Young I, the God, love your work. 100, no problem, guys. And I promise that I'm gonna try to keep bringing you guys better stuff over time. I promise that. As I said before, you know, a lot of you make it very, very easy. For me now, it frees me up. The more y'all support the content, not even just financially, but just liking it and sharing it, getting the content out there, it really helps more people find it. Moore's law applies mainly to hardware. The artificial industry has short periods of innovative leaps and long periods of stagnation. I'll look into that, Roscoe. I'll definitely look into that. Mm-mm. What are the 5 cryptos you suggest researching? I'm big into protocols, right? So I would definitely tell you that Ethereum with the whole DeFi and ETH 2.0 is what you need to be focused on for a fact. You definitely need to be paying attention to that because that's big stuff, and that's something that's practical. It's a lot of low hanging fruit. That means there's a lot of business that can be taken. Definitely Bitcoin. Tezos, I like what Tezos is going with the whole staking and the things that they're doing. Chainlink, I think, is a good one that you want to pay attention to. And the next one I would have to pick. I would I would mainly go with protocols, right? Because I believe that these protocols are going to be able to have things, dApps and tokens built on top of them. I would hold my breath with EOS. I don't trust the guy Dan Laramere. So again, I said Tezos, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink. I like 0x. And what was the other one? 0x. What's the other one I want to talk about? One more I'll tell you that I would one more protocol. I'll stick with those for right now. I think you couldn't go wrong with that. Cardano, Charles has been promising things for years now, and just you don't see any real development happening on Cardano. I really like I said, the whole DeFi space. I really believe that that's going to be something that's going to pay off in a major way. So like I said before, that whole Ethereum, Chainlink, 0x, I believe that those are things that you should definitely be focusing on in the whole DeFi space and protocols, and Tezos. I really, really like Tezos. I think that Tezos is going to be able to present something good. As you can see, 0x is trading at 17 cents, only $100 million market cap. I like Augur. Augur's good. I like projects where you can see people developing. Like, go to their GitHubs and look at how many commits they have on the GitHub and see who's developing on a project. But EOS is like, I just don't. Dan, he's like one of those people. He's a serial project hopper. He just jumps from project to project to project. Someone else just sent a donation. Do you think they will go to free college as they do in San Fran and student loan forgiveness with the new bill? Yes. I believe that we're towards that end of this debt bubble, this inflation bubble, and I believe that the politicians are going to go for broke. I believe that they're going to literally I believe that they're going to throw everything at the kitchen sink. I believe that they're going to either, do a debt jubilee or just completely wipe out student loans. Because remember, the federal government holds 90% of all student loans anyway. So I can see them wiping out all student loans. But remember, if they do that, like you're going to be at the, how much of your freedom and liberty are you going to have to give up to have the government, to have Big Daddy take care of you? Nothing comes for free, right? So understand, like, if you get one of these hardcore socialists or communists, people like a Bernie, who may be an extension of the CCP, who may have been brought out by China. Like, if you get one of these people that are, in that position, because China is trying to infiltrate the West. Don't get it twisted by any stretch of the imagination. You have to really start asking yourself, what is America going to look like when the government controls your education? They control your health care. They control how much, allowance you get, or your UBI. At that point, you're basically a slave to the government. They do everything for you, and they tell you what you can eat through the whole FDA. They control your education. They control how much money you get. Like, you don't live in a free and open society anymore. When all of your transactions are on a blockchain, a database, and there's no, anonymity with your transactions, like, you buy the wrong thing, you're banned. You say the wrong thing, you're done. So I don't think I want to live in a society like that, where everything is just subsidized by the government and, taken care by the government. I think that that's going to be extremely problematic, but I believe that the government is going to do that, where they're going to try to buy off everybody's, what's the name? They're going to try to buy votes. So be very, very careful of. Remember, I told you, a government big enough to take care of you is a government big enough to hurt you. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. A government big enough to help you is damn sure big enough to hurt you. If they can help you, they can damn sure hurt you. So you have to be very, very careful. There's a lot of dark forces at work right now, and now's the time to be getting right mentally, physically, and spiritually. And now's the time to really start getting your house in order, being careful with what you listen to, who you listen to, and what you're doing, because as you can see, like a lot of, like, I think Grant Cardone put up a video the other day, where he was talking about he's bankrupt or he's about to file bankruptcy. Now, I don't know if it's a joke or not. I didn't get a chance to look into it, so don't come bite my head off and say I'm wrong. I didn't get a chance to. But let's just say if what he's saying is true, you're going to start to see a lot of people start to align with people and start doing things because they're over leveraged. And this is why you got to be careful who you following, because you don't know who may be behind them, or you don't know what kind of trouble they may be in, where they may be trying to steer you down a certain path or down with certain information because they're getting bailed out from someone else, So you're going to start to see a lot of that just in media and television. Like, you got to be careful with what you listen to, what you watch, because you don't know what forces might be behind that TV show or that news platform or that YouTuber. You got to be very, very, very careful in today's world and times, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of things that's going to be happening. And, your favorite influencer, your favorite YouTuber, you may think is a real genuine person, and they may be, under the control of, certain people or certain things. Yeah, I to be quite honest with you, Malik, Immaculate, I believe we're already here. So, I mean, I guess we could have another live stream about that. Let's take a few more questions. I know most people don't realize this. With driving trucks versus a car is a completely different animal. You see airplane drones, but you don't see robot tanks, do you? I mean, listen, the technology's here, so I don't understand what you're debating about. It's already here. We already see it. So it's funny you said that, Fly Town, right? That's good what you just said. The government owns 90% of all student loans, 60% of healthcare, and 50% of mortgages. I don't know how true that is for the healthcare and mortgages, but I know that's true for the student loans. And that just goes to show you, like, how much of a capitalistic society do we live in when the government controls that much of the economy? Like, you have to really start asking yourself these important questions. Like, you can't say that that's capitalism, right? You just can't. When the government is subsidizing industries like that, it's just that's not capitalism. That's cronyism. It will never be pointless. I'm just going to say STHD to invest in gold and silver. Gold has been money for thousands of years, thousands. Every fiat currency in the history of money has went to zero. Every fiat currency has failed. Every fiat currency. There has not been one fiat currency that has lasted the test of time. Gold will always be money. You know why? Because if you put gold in the ground and you came back 1,000 years later, it would still be there. If you put little pieces of paper in the ground and came back 1,000 years later, it wouldn't. Right? That's why paper is fiat currency. It's just the medium of exchange. It's a efficient way of exchanging value, but money will always be gold. And I would always encourage people to hold gold. And if you can't afford gold, get your hands on some silver, because silver has some really unique industrial purposes. But again, that's for people who you want to store some wealth and you want to have some protection. If you're trying to make money, you have to be investing in things that are going to get that bubble phase. That's going to get a lot of capital coming in, and that's where, think about it. All of the companies that are growing are tech-based companies. Like, if you look at where all of the crazy, look at biotech and nanotechnology, like I said, that's where all of the growth is happening at, which is why I keep staring you guys. Get yourself into STEM so you can, even if you don't fully go into that career, just to have a basis, a foundation, a framework of how to operate in that space will be tremendous and powerful for you. I promise you. Because it happened with me. That when I got burned in Mt. Gox, when I first came across Bitcoin, I didn't understand anything. But over time, as I start diving down that rabbit hole, you start to see how powerful the whole idea and concept of decentralization is, and how, privacy is important, and how these tech companies use your data. And it's a reason why Google gives you Google for free, because your data is so much more valuable to them than they'll give you a service for free. Like, it's a reason why YouTube is free. They want to know what you think. And if I can know how people think and what they like and what they do and learn their behaviors, man, I could be a powerful man because I can predict the future, right? If I can get all of your data and information, I can begin to predict the future. Therefore, I can shape it, and that's what you're seeing tech companies do right now. Mm. If you were president, how would you handle China? That's a very, very, very good question. And to be quite honest with you, I don't have a really good answer for you, Casper 17. I don't have um an answer for that, because to fight a war with bombs and tanks in this 21st century, you're talking about nukes, right? And it's good to have like nuclear bombs and atomic bombs. It's very genius to think about making it. Like, whoever made it had to be a genius, but you'll be a damn fool if you use one, right? Because if you use it, even if you win the war, you literally destroy everything. When I see that type of stuff, I don't think that it's smart to go that type of route. And I don't believe that no war will ever be fought with a nuke, because if you nuke something, you can't use it, right? I don't really know how you could deal with China as far as like war is concerned. I just don't know, because, as I said before, I believe the war that we're going to fight now is going to be a silent war. It's going to be a war with, bioterrorism. It's going to be a war of attrition. And I believe that the West has too much debt. I believe that we have bad demographics. I believe that many of our politicians and our people have sold us out. So I don't really see America winning this one. You know what I'm saying? I don't see how America can win. I just don't. China spent their time focusing on tech, focusing on AI. And it's funny because the show Westworld is based out of China. I don't want to get too creepy and too negative, but guys, there's some serious things that, China has coming down with androids and stuff like that. That's here. America, we sold our country out. We didn't do what we were supposed to do, and this is what has to come. It's like the Roman Empire. All great empires fall. The Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Roman Empire fell, and America will fall. The American Empire will fall, and most likely it will happen in our lifetimes. I don't really see what America can do at this point. We didn't protect our borders. We didn't protect the culture. We didn't take care of the people that were here. We didn't do right by the descendants of slaves. I mean, there's too much wrong that America did that they didn't take care of, and they just have too many enemies. Too much debt, too many enemies, too much disdain for the American culture. I just don't see how, But, I mean, never underestimate the spirit of liberty, right? I would tell you that. So, you just gotta, you gotta think about that. So, when you burn a lot of bridges, you lose a lot of, people that want to see you win. You can't believe anything out of China, but, they didn't get to number 2 by being dumb, right? So I agree with you. You can't believe anything coming out, but guys, you don't get to number 2 by being a slouch. And when you see that China's willing to sacrifice their own people to get to where they have to get to, you're dealing with a disciplined group of people. I told you I was into the whole engineering thing, and like when you start to look at Chinese culture and how they raise their children, and how their children they're so disciplined and ingrained, and going to school and finishing, and like that whole culture is different in China, even amongst Chinese people who have who come from wealth and affluence. They have just a level of discipline that a lot of Americans don't. A lot of Americans, we're fat, we're obese, we don't care about education, we don't care about culture, we don't care about family, we don't care about code. Like, a lot of Americans just don't give a damn. So like I said before, we've become, we fed too much off of our spoils, right? We didn't really focus enough on trying to do, put put better things into place, So I just think that our culture is very toxic. American culture is toxic, and we got some growing to do. Now, like I said, I don't. I believe that if we get some things together at home, we get a house in order, we could, But um, I agree. High value socialism destroyed Rome, and socialism destroyed America. I would agree with that one. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Okay, so let's take a few more questions. Yes, Dark Soul. America may look what our corporations did to us. Look what our politicians did to us. They sold us out for the almighty dollar. But see, then that goes to another layer because now you got to start thinking about, well, who's moving these pieces, right? Because there's bigger forces behind, just the whole China and America thing. Like who's making these shifts, right? Who's these people, that the power brokers who get these things moving? So, you got to start thinking that there's a bigger picture here. There's something bigger at play, right? There are bigger forces at play than just, patriotism, right? Based upon your country. Like there's a lot of bigger things at work. And this is what I was trying to say to you. Like when you start going down that rabbit hole with technology and getting into transhumanism and people trying to live forever and, predictive programming, like there are things and forces at work that are deeper than just, country versus country and, Asian versus Chinese. So there's a lot of things that um there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of things at work, a lot of moving parts, which is why you can't be one of these people that gets sucked into one way of thinking. You have to be very, very flexible in your thinking. You have to be able to pursue all possibilities, and then you have to start thinking about which ones are the most important to you right now, today, to you and your family. I tell people this all the time. You have to start thinking about you and your family and thinking about how do I protect us and prepare us for the future. And for some of you, it's what I call personal finance. It's different things, and that's a personal thing that you have to figure out. But definitely get yourself together. You know what I'm saying? Um, did you speak on Chamath comment on CNBC about corporate bailouts? No, I'll probably do that tomorrow. Um, I'll speak on that. I agree with what he's saying, but I just think that, I think a lot of that's just theater. Like I think it's just good for shows, right? I think that a lot of that stuff is just, it's like like political grandstanding. It's just coming on there just to, like, get a bunch of clicks and views. But like, listen, that's not going to change anything. Like speaking of these are forces that's been set into motion. Bailouts been going on, guys, for 50, 60 years. I told you guys, these bailouts are nothing new. These bailouts are nothing new. So I mean, I like what he said, but like, let's be real, guys. Bailouts have been happening since the 50s. I told you New York got bailed out in the 70s. Chrysler got bailed out. Different small bank bailouts been going on. Corporatism and cronyism has been going on. So it's like he's not doing anything that could actually change anything. Like just talking. Like we're past talking, guys. You can't talk anymore, right? Like I said before, when you see stuff like this, when stuff like this is going on, we past talking now, right? Like it's here now. Now it's just a matter of, like I said, like all of these things are here, right? 1984, George Orwell's 1984 is here, and Aldous Huxley's A Brave New World is here, right? It's here. You can't tuck your head in the sand anymore and act like these things aren't here, or if, like, just a soundbite. Like now it's the time to start getting prepared. That's all I can tell you. It's time for you to start getting prepared. I don't want to sound like I don't want to scare you. I just want to get you prepared, man. Now's the time to get serious. Microchips. Start looking at companies who produce microchips. Right? Those microchips are going to be in everything. Chip manufacturers. That's what you need to be looking at. That's where those are the biggest companies. All these microchips and these technology inside of these self-driving cars, inside of cell phones. That's what you need to be focused on. So, but with that being said, guys, we've been going for an hour and a half. I want to try to start cutting these streams down. I don't want them to go too long because I know some of you don't want to watch 2-hour streams. So an hour and a half is pretty good. Thank you to everyone who donated. If you're watching this recording, you can support me through my PayPal in the description below. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You also can follow me on Instagram, and you can join my mailing list as well. With that being said, guys, I will see you tomorrow. We'll do another live stream. If you have any topics that you want me to cover, shoot me a DM on Instagram. If it's something I'm interested in, I'll definitely cover it. And I'll probably dive into Chamov's comments tomorrow during tomorrow's live stream. Have a blessed and beautiful day, guys. Be safe. Always protect your family. And be careful to who and what you listen to.